Let's take care of our babies. Okay, beloved, today is March 13th, 2024. Doc Ellis, the Hick Doctor. Saul, Oklahoma City. Work comp. This is Federal Works Comp. Tinker, slipping on the ice. Triceps tendon. Schedule ward. Just go to ellisclinic.com, run out appointments, come in for a schedule ward, we'll take care of it. Now I got to tell you my Tinker story. So I've got a lady, it's a snowy day, she walks outside the building, slips and falls, and has an injury. She comes in to my office with a blueprint as big as my desk, where the HR department, the environmental service department, had gone and measured with a wheel the inches how far if she walked within the buildings to where she had the fall, or if she walked outside the buildings. That tells you that Tinker's HR department doesn't know shit from Shinola. It happened inside the fence. It's covered. Then the environmental services don't know shit from Shinola. It happened inside the fence. It doesn't matter now if they're roughhousing, that's one thing. But it doesn't matter if she walked out and slipped in the ice or she slipped. Come on. Can you imagine the amount of my tax dollars waste of that is? I get pissed at stupidity. Okay. Read the damn rules. They're simple and they're very, 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 very fair. Okay. All right. Okay. So anyway, come in and we'll do a schedule award for you. Okay. That's an impairment rating or a disability rating in Federal Works Comp. That's what a schedule award in 1916, the law, you cut off a thumb was worth a schedule. Okay, so now, here we have Texas, will, disc bulge, protrusion, 99, VA rated, 40%. That's just for the back. Did they rate the nerves down your legs? Probably not. But since then, you've gained weight. That's going to cut all that weight gain. That's a secondary to the injury. So then your hypertension, your sleep apnea, your diabetes, and your chronic kidney disease are all service connected. You just need a Nexus report and someone explaining the logic and medical logic for that. Okay, so that's what we do. So my individual doctor will link sleep apnea to hypertension, and my private will link diabetes, hypertension. No, all that stuff's covered, okay? That's all covered. Come on. That's common sense. But it's not common sense because we're not trained in legal medicine. In the Air Force, the doctors that are taking occupational medicine, they get Masters of Public Health and other more titles. They're board certified as flight surgeons, and then maybe majors, lieutenant colonels, come spend a day with me because they all write down best thing they did in a 3-year residency. Well, I'm a good teacher, but no one's that good. This is what I teach about reasonable medical certainty, reasonable medical probability, VA more likely than not. So, doctor, you don't see this patient, this is what you hear. He goes somewhere that's endemic for hepatitis A, doesn't have the hepatitis A vaccine, and then 21 days later, you're told he has yellow eyes. What's your thought, doctor? Not a diagnosis, not an impression. Well, he's got jaundice, then the bile, and from hepatitis A. That's reasonable medical certainty with the information you have at that point in time. It's not, in criminal law, that'd be hearsay. No, that's what doctors do. You tell me you have a headache, that's hearsay, but that doesn't mean you don't have a headache. Medical evidence is different than criminal evidence. Okay, but doctors are not trained in this, and over 50% of litigation requires a doctor's opinion, and we're not trained. Okay, so that messes the system up. Okay, so then the patient gets a CAT scan, and there's a gallstone down in the common bile duct. To a doctor, that means they back that bile, which turns yellow eyes. So now my impression is he's got a common duct stone. That's reasonable medical certainty. The lab test comes back. He has the stone and hepatitis. Then at that point, that's reasonable medical certainty. And every time the doctor says, "Oh my God, I've been screwing people for 20 years." It's not rocket science. It's not criminal law. Doctor, you're the expert in that field. So when I go to court and I go through all my qualifications to show I'm an expert, like right now I've got 42 things sticking on the wall, degrees and certificates and blah, blah, blah. 18 in medicine, which is a lot, and the rest in legal medicine, whatever that number is, and that's not a huge amount, okay? But I just tell the truth and explain what it is, and okay, thank you very much. Okay, now, here's Terry from Georgia. Got a schedule award for hearing. And then if you'd like to get hearing aids, we get those covered for you. and they should pay for them. You're afraid of getting another test because you're afraid there'll be improvement. There probably isn't going to be, but let's say there is. Okay? Okay, so we do a scheduled ward on you, and let's say you had 10 and now went down to 5. Don't send it in. But even if you do, you're not going to have to pay it back. But we'll get your hearing aids. You need to come in, and we'll write a report, get your hearing aids, medical necessity, and then we'll look at the scheduled ward. I mean, we'll just look at the math and say, is it worth it? If it's not, we won't do that. We'll just do, you need hearing aids. Right? My HR folks said, don't trust HR. Don't trust my coach, pretend like I got one on it. Okay, Barry in California. Standard approved for federal cumulative trauma death claim. I just got through saying that, okay? Based, if it's my medical approved, that's my medical opinion, that's a standard of proof, okay? Now we have congenital hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, sudden death, which is very common, accelerated by repetitive heavy physical work. Absolutely. Basketball players fall out and die on the court, and football players die on the field. Okay? And now, what is the amount of the death benefit? I don't know. You'd have to Google and find. I don't know. Okay. David, do you recommend any doctors proficient in impairment ratings in the Charlotte area? I'm assuming that's federal workers' comp. Actually, I don't even recommend myself now. Now, the AMA guides, let me show you. Okay. I got it. Here's the book we use in federal workers' comp. All right? Now, for instance, it says you can go by diagnosis or range of motion, whichever's higher. So if the range of motion is higher, then you're through. That's all you can get. Okay, that's what the book says. Now, if you don't, so you may know the AMA guides, you may have taken the course by the actual authors, which are still teaching it. And by the way, the district medical advisors and federal workers' comp really know the guides. So everybody's on an equal basis. So I praise them. Okay. So they know that. So everybody's following the guides. But you don't want someone in those guides. You need someone who knows all the FECA, Federal Employment Compensation Act bulletins. For instance, for you people out there, FECA bulletin 17.6. You start off, let's say, shoulder. Which is more, the range of motion or the diagnosis? Well, usually range of motion is. The FECA bulletin says you take the nerves that you used to not be able to do and add it to that range of motion. That's what's coming from New Jersey. And you want Nicole to do it. Okay? So that takes care of that. And we should be getting more people now because we're swamped. Okay, all right. All right, so now here's David. We just did that. All right, okay, now here's Kevin, paratrooper, Fort Bragg, which means you're crazy, but thank you very much. And so that covers everything. And Chris did go sick call for the jump, and my knees and back are horrible now. So you got turned down. You made a VA claim, got turned down. First of all, you need to have a Nexus report so someone knows what they're doing. You don't go to the VA and have one of their doctors or one of their raters do it. You start with your Nexus report. And no doesn't mean no. In fact, if you go to the Board of Veterans Appeals, Google the name Ellis, and you'll see Ellis's, we're going to rely on that report, remand. Go back and get it fixed based on Ellis's report. Because I tell the truth, I tell it in common sense, and follow the law, okay? So your back, your knees, if you've got hypertension, that should be covered. If you've gained weight and you have sleep apnea, that should be covered. So let's just take care of that. Now here is Louisiana, Marist. Cost of a Nexus letter for sleep apnea, $500. The secondary ejected back in $500. Yeah. You got 40% back and 30% neck. Now when you're here, we're going to check to see if that neck and back is just for that. Do you have any numbness in nerve pain from the neck and arm down the arm? That's called radiculopathy. We need to add that. Okay. All right. Now here's Leroy in New York. Can I reopen my claim for DOL? Actually, even when the Department of Labor, Federal Workers' Comp claims closed, they're not really closed. They're just administrative silent. You can always reopen for treatment. You can always reopen for scheduled ward. If for scheduled ward, you just come in, we do it. Okay. Okay, so my agency lied to DOL, told about my disciplinary issues. That has nothing to do with FCP. That has nothing to do with scheduled ward. Okay. And you have emails to prove your case. It doesn't matter. If you've got you got a claim, that's all I need. Let's do a rating on it. Now, if the claim is denied, we'll get your history from you, and we'll get it approved. And if they don't listen to us, we'll do an oral hearing, or we'll take a TCAP. Pamela at Washington. Last July, you said, let me be your doctor, okay. Having trouble with my old doctor getting my medical records. Now, HIPAA, that's a $50,000 fine, doctor. When the patient asks for those medical records, that information belongs to her. And I have to say, because she could write to HIPAA and file a complaint, and you will learn a lesson, or your estate will learn a lesson. Okay. So, but the other thing you can do, come on up and we'll see you. Then we'll have us write for the records. Then you won't have to get all the records. We just need a certain things. We might just want an op report. We don't need all the records, and they might be more likely to respond to that. Okay. Haven't seen a doctor over 3 years. That has nothing to do it. Second opinion didn't agree with the first opinion. Well, gee whiz, that's the first time I ever heard that. That's okay. The latest opinion applies, so we'll do another one. It never closes. You can have two dueling doctors, then they get a referee doctor, but then you can go back and start all over. It's never over if you don't quit. All I want the government to do is follow the rules. Okay, now, Michael from Massachusetts. Head injury, 78, and 100% permanent total for a head injury. Well, what about your neck? What about the numbs down your arms? Right? Are you paralyzed on one side? You know, okay. The other symptoms, no doctor or service officer has been interested in other symptoms, okay? So you may be permanent total, but are you individual and employable? You getting aid and dependents? Are somebody get paid to help you? Get that done. I'd like to know how to get SMC-T, which stands for Special Monthly Compensation Traumatic Brain Injury. I'll write a report, and we'll look up the form and fill out the form and get you taken care of. Okay, now this is Troy from Louisiana. Army vet tinnitus, knee injury, rated 10%. Now 10% is the max for tinnitus. What about hearing loss? You have hearing loss, you have hearing aids. Your hearing loss is a different number. Okay. A knee at 10. Okay, that would be arthritis. Is your knee loose? If you have a loose ligament, there are 4 ligaments in the knee. If it's mildly, slightly loose, that's 10%. If it's mildly loose, that's 20. If it's severely loose, it's 30. So you could have 30% in each knee ligament. And that's the needs exam. It gets done in 5 seconds. Okay. Now, I've been diagnosed with back pain. Obviously, the knee and the back are, that's it. Okay. For instance, you're supposed to lift the box, in between your legs, lift it up. If you have knee or ankle pain or hip pain, you can't lift that box. So for the rest of your life after that knee or ankle pain or hip pain, you're lifting boxes incorrectly and putting more pressure on the back. Therefore, that's covered. It's called secondary consequential. At least your medical records, the Army showed business for the injuries you had. Yeah. Claims denied, not even CMP exam. What a bunch of assholes. Okay, so don't give up. Come on in, we'll take care of it. We know the law. Okay, I'm not going to read his name, but it's cute. Okay, got a scheduled order. He's talking about Buddy, 15% of years for his shoulder, working for the post office. Okay, also in the service. Now you can double dip. Okay, so say you got injured in the service, that's going to make you prone to injure your shoulder working at the post office. Now, federal workers' comp, if you have a pre-existing condition, it's aggravated the slightest amount, that's the word, it's covered. Can't receive OWCP disability VA benefits? Yes, you can. His FICA disability stops because once you get disability, you get so much a month, then it runs out. Are you working? Maybe you need to be on temporary total disability. So file for the VA stuff and consequential stuff. Get your Fannie in here. We'll talk to you. Thomas, why does the VA ignore presumptive rules? Because they're assholes. No, they don't know the law. And it's just, and you got a stack of crap, it's just easier to just say no. So if you've ever said, I can't believe someone did something like this, you've never read the Bible. Paul said he's the chief of sinners. Well, I wasn't born yet, I'm now the chief of sinners. Speaking as the number one asshole, people are assholes. That's why Jesus came down. When I was in medical school, we had books on abnormal psychology. Now that I've met this Lord Jesus, I realize that's normal psychology. Hitler's normal. My being an asshole is normal. My forgiving people is from another dimension. My loving people is from another dimension. It's abnormal. James says, writing to people tortured to death, count it all joy when you suffer trials. That's crazy. It's also true. Now, by the way you do that, the way you do all this stuff, forgiving enemy stuff, you say it. You can say it with your fingers crossed. Confess with your mouth, Lord Jesus. Believe in your heart, God raised from the dead. Now, a lot of people do that to get saved. That's fine. It's the daily walk. Jesus did not feel like getting on the cross. His flesh was not born again. Since February 3rd, 1972, 2:30 in the afternoon, when Jesus grabbed me, I have not sinned in my spirit. My flesh is worse than it was before. Somebody once said, you're not a very good Christian. I said, you haven't got a clue what a bad Christian I am. Okay? But my spirit has been seated in heavenly places, been raised, seated in heavenly places since then. So I've been saved for 50 years, and in those 50 years, I've let the Holy Spirit lead me 7 times for 1 minute. All right. So don't be surprised if you're like Jesus in the garden, you turn it over to the Father, and then things happen, you get upset again, and you go back in the garden and turn it over again, and you come back and you turn it over again. It took him 3 times. So if it takes me 7 times, that's okay. God understands. He's been here. Okay, now this is Lee from Virginia. 40% want to add additional claim, irritable bowel syndrome. Yeah, probably just the medicine you're taking for your back. Okay? Wait a minute, I was diagnosed in the service, so that's covered. Okay? But if you're having pain, abnormal sleep patterns, that's going to make your gastrointestinal tract go crazy. For instance, we don't do it now, but in the old days, because I was practicing medicine with dinosaurs and people, if you're having trouble, you would have people swallow barium, and so it looks like white on an X-ray or a fluoroscope, and you see it moving down the gastrointestinal tract. So you could have someone swallowing the barium, and you see it going through the intestinal tract, and the intestines just moving it through the nice rhythmic stuff, and say this just this much. Please stand still. Stand still. That much emotion makes that gastrointestinal go. You really do get a pain in your gut with emotion. Your gut's it listens to your emotions. So irritable bowel syndrome can be brought on by PTSD. Leah from Mississippi. Below the knee amputation, a work injury, is ready to apply for scheduled ward. Anybody can do this one. We always think it should be 100%, but you may need to rate the knee, but you probably need to rate the hip too, maybe even the back. So amputations, AMA guys, it's just a little form. So an amputation below the knee within 3 inches can be 80 to 84%. Okay, above the knee or knee disarticulation above the knee can be 90 to 94%. Above the mid thigh is 100, 100, 100, 100, 100. Okay. So, but you may also have that plus a hip range, decreased range of motion. Walk around the consequential injury walking around with a prosthetic. Okay? But that speaks for itself. You don't need to come for that. Anybody knows the AIM guys can fill that out. There's no thinking bulletin on that. Well, guys, put on my Vietnam hat. I realized that I loved Vietnam. I loved the mortars coming in, I loved the camaraderie, I loved the war, and I hated it. Not 50-50, I loved 100% and hated it 50%. It's kind of like spiritual stuff. There's 100% predestination and simultaneously free will. My mind doesn't understand it. My mind doesn't understand the Trinity. My mind doesn't understand quantum mechanics, but I can use a cell phone. God bless you all.
Thank you, Doc.